Ever wondered what happens when a sociopathic killer, the illusion of free will, and America's moral collapse collide into a slow burn pseudo thriller? Then you're going to love or hate Cormac McCarthy's No Country for Old Men. Hey, this is Blighted Pine Books, and today we're going to be taking a look at Cormac McCarthy's No Country for Old Men. So it's been over a decade since I saw the Coen brothers film adaptation of No Country for Old Men, and I still remember Javier Bardem's bowl cut menace, that incredible candy wrapper scene in the gas station.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
And his bolt pistol that he uses to slaughter without reason. And those images and the film's senseless violence hit at a time when school shootings were just becoming disturbingly common, and tapping into some of the cultural anxiety as the country felt like it was unraveling. So having just finished Blood Meridian, you can check out my review of that. I decided it was time to dive deeper into McCarthy, and No Country for Old Men felt like a natural step. So if you haven't seen the film, or if it's been a while, here's like a spoiler light version. So it's set in the Southwest Texas U.S.-Mexico border, and it features this guy named I guess the protagonist, his name is Llewellyn Moss, and he stumbles on a drug deal gone wrong and a satchel containing $2 million. He shows up the next day in order to bring this one dying guy some water, and then he gets chased and is almost killed himself. And so this kind of like sets off this cat and mouse chase that's going to make up a majority of the novel. And the cat is Anton Sugar. He is a sociopath who is armed with a cattle bolt pistol and a coin flipping philosophy. And then there's also Sheriff Ed Tom Bell, who's like he's an aging sheriff who frames the story throughout with these like italicized soliloquies and his meditations on America's moral decay, while also carrying the weight of his own guilt of a botched World War II battle and the undeserved Bronze Star that he received to cover it up. The novel moves between Moss's desperate run, Sugar's relentless pursuit of him, and Bell's kind of poetic reflections, building to a classic Cormac McCarthy anticlimax: no answers, just questions. So why not just watch the movie? The Coen brothers, they return to what's considered to be like the height of their filmmaking with this one after a couple of missteps. There were two. One was called The Lady Killers, and the other Intolerable Cruelty, both starring George Clooney, that were like perceived to be kind of flops. But this film, No Country for Old Men, it's nearly perfect. Some consider it to be their best film. There's no score, there's no music, except for the desert wind throughout. And Javier Bardem's portrayal of a sociopath was rated by a panel of real psychiatrists to be the most accurate portrayal of a psychopath or a sociopath. So if the movie is that good, why bother with this thing? Well, because the book isn't. It's not so much about the plot. I found the film is more like plot based, and it really highlights Bardem's portrayal of this sociopath, and it's incredible in its own. But this book is less about that tension. I mean, it's certainly still present. It's the plot of the book, but it's less about the tension and more about the philosophy. Right? The plot is pretty simple: kill man, get money, return money. But McCarthy uses Moss and Bell in order to dig into some of these themes that the movie just kind of brushes over. So what philosophy, what themes? McCarthy famously claimed he didn't plan themes. He had one typewriter that he used like his entire life. He just bought a couple new models of the same typewriter that he used, and he said he would just sit at the typewriter and just let the stories come to him. He wasn't planning like a kind of political diatribe or anything. But whether he intended it or not, there are two themes that dominate. One is the question of fate and free will, and also the erosion of America's moral landscape. So first, on fate and free will. Some critics argue that Shurga is Bell's Jungian shadow, that in fact, he doesn't even exist. And I really like this this reading. It gives the book kind of like a dreamlike vibe. And so he's just kind of like stalking the territory of the book with his cattle gun. But he's more of a symbolic representation of Bell's anxieties about the way that the country is going. But more often, he's seen as a symbol of fate itself. And in the iconic gas station scene, he tells the clerk the following. Just call it. Well, I need to know what it is we're calling here. How would that change anything? The man looked at Sugar's eyes for the first time, blue as lapis, at one glistening and totally opaque, like wet stones. You need to call it, Sugar said. I can't call it for you. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't even be right. Just call it. I didn't put nothing up. Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it. You know what the date is on the coin? No. It's 1958. It's been traveling 22 years to get here. And now it's here, and I'm here. And I've got my hand over it, and it's either heads or tails. And you have to say, call it. So this scene is like the perfect embodiment of this particular reading. Shurga isn't just a killer. He doesn't have a reason for killing this particular gas station attendant. He is just an agent of the universe, acting with a terrifying detachment, and he literally operates on chance, on the flip of a coin. The second theme that I thought was really interesting was the degeneration of the American moral landscape. So if Shurga is fate, Bell is like this nostalgia for the past and this anxiety about the present. And he has like these soliloquies throughout the book that ache for a time before the drug war, before Vietnam, before this churn of violence. And I thought his most like poignant encapsulation of this was found a little bit later in the text at the beginning of chapter 7. I read in the papers here a while back, some teachers come across a survey that was sent out back in the 30s to a number of schools around the country. Had this questionnaire about what was the problems with teaching in schools, and they come across these forms. They'd been filled out and sent in from around the country answering these questions. And the biggest problems they could name was things like talking in class and running in the hallways, chewing gum, copying homework, things of that nature. So they got one of them forms that was blank and printed up a bunch of them and sent them back out to the same schools 40 years later. Well, here come the answers back. Rape, arson, murder, drugs, suicide. So I think about that, because a lot of the time, ever when I say anything about how the world is going to hell in a handbasket, people just sort of smile and tell me that I'm getting old, that it's one of the symptoms. But my feeling about that is that anybody that can't tell the difference between raping and murdering people and chewing gum has got a whole lot of a bigger problem than what I've got. 40 years is not a long time neither. Maybe the next 40 of it will bring some of them out from under the ether, if it ain't too late. So yeah, this is like obviously the most clear distillation of Sheriff Bell's worldview that he seems very confident in, that like the world used to be this pretty like, you know, innocent place with like, you know, moderate problems. But like now even the kids are participating in the moral degeneracy of the nation. And so I started thinking about, as I was reading, like, is Sheriff Bell right? Does Cormac McCarthy agree with Sheriff Bell? Has America truly fallen, or was it always this way? Reading this after Blood Meridian, I couldn't help thinking about the judge again, who says history is nothing but wave after wave of bloodshed and violence. Bell longs for this simpler time, but McCarthy's own canon suggests that there never was one. Maybe No Country isn't about decline, but maybe it's more about the illusion that we were ever safe. And I also began thinking about why this novel matters now. I talked to a lot of people that really feel that we're heading in the wrong direction in just about every way. And so if there's one thing that everybody agrees on today, it's that the country feels like it's slipping away. Some fear far left communism, while others are afraid or terrified of far right fascism. And so, in a way, it's like we're all Sheriff Bell, looking back at something that once felt stable, even if it never really was, and waking every day to more chaos, more violence, and ultimately the sense that we're powerless to stop it. So McCarthy leaves us with no comfort, just Bell's dream of his father carrying a horn of fire into the dark desert night. There's a pale, cold light emanating from it, and that's all we get. Very interesting. So is this his best book? Is this the best Cormac McCarthy novel? No, but it's really good. It's very tight. It's very understated. It's got that like really minimalist Cormac McCarthy style, but it lacks like that mythical biblical weight that I found in Blood Meridian. That is like as good or maybe even better than something like Moby Dick. Still, it's Cormac. You should read it, especially if you've only seen the film. I feel like this adds like a wanted depth to that film. And if you would like to dive into more Cormac McCarthy this year, please hit subscribe and come along for the ride, because I'm going to be reading a few more of his books. So thanks for hanging out for this review. I hope you have enjoyed it. This has been Blighted Pine Books, No Country for Old Men, Cormac McCarthy. See y'all later.